So back in 2013, famous horror director Tom Holland wrote and directed a web series slash anthology thing. Sound cool? Because I'm here to talk about Tom Holland's Twisted Tales from 2014. Admittedly, I haven't heard a single word about it, but I bought a cheap DVD copy a while back. So one day on one of my many trips to a local store to scour the DVD shelves for gems, I came upon a standard DVD. It was a few bucks, and the name Tom Holland on the cover caught my eye instantly. I mean, all of us collectors are, self-trained to catch that sort of thing, It's what we do, right? Even if I wasn't a Tom Holland fan of any sort, I'd still probably see it, But the man broke onto the scene in the 80s, by directing stuff like Fright Night and Child's Play. He really started out with a bang in the horror world, there's no doubt about that. But beyond the late 80s, his career has been kind of rocky. I think we could all agree on that. As, it tends to go with a lot of famous directors, even actors, writers, whatever. He directed a movie called The Owl in 1991 under the name Alan Smithy, and I think we all know what that means. If not, look it up. He also directed a few Tales from the Crypt episodes, so that's cool, I probably haven't seen anything he's worked on since maybe The Langoliers in 1995, so, I was curious. So, as I said, Twisted Tales was a project, Tom Holland worked on back in 2013. It was a web series that he wrote and directed for FearNet, which was kind of like a cable TV precursor to things like Shudder. It was released on DVD in 2014. Holland wanted to do 13 episodes, but only finished 9 due to budgetary constraints. And like I said, this is basically an anthology, at least that's the way it plays out. And I've always been a fan of these things, and Tom Holland is an old school guy, and I wanted to see what he could do with the format when left to his own devices. He personally introduces most of the episodes here, which I found kind of charming, and it made me feel like, he was proud of his work here. Nothing wrong with that at all. It was also probably cheaper than hiring somebody to do it. Anyways, I'll go through each episode here individually. Starting with episode 1, called Fred and His GPS. The first episode starts, and the first thing I notice is how raw and low budget it looks. Not exactly what I expected for the most part, but it actually kind of works. It gives it a little bit of that old school grainy vibe, and even though it probably wasn't intended, again, it works for me. The episode is very minimal. One actor, one character, basically. You have Fred, a mortgage broker who has murdered his wife, Samantha. As he's making his escape, he uses his car's GPS to direct him to the airport when it starts to have a conversation with him. He justifies the murder by claiming that, he gave Samantha everything only to be repeatedly cheated on. You buy his story at first, but the GPS seems to be channeling Samantha through it, and she has another story, which is that Fred was nothing but neglectful. He gets mad and unplugs the device, but that doesn't work. Is this happening, or is Fred just crazy? I thought this episode was okay, It probably wouldn't have kept my attention for long, but at 7 minutes, it works all right. Kind of reminded me of 80s and 90s, anthology shows, because I really missed that kind of stuff, but that's really the best thing I can say about it. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. It was an alright episode, maybe not the strongest start. Kind of made me wonder, alright, what's coming next? Usually you want to, start off with a bang if you can, right? So let's see where it goes from here. Episode 2, To Hell With You. So this episode has some star power. You got Danielle Harris and William Forsythe. So automatically, my curiosity was piqued. You see a schleppy dude named Carlos tell Susan, played by Danielle Harris, that he cheated on her and is now dumping her. Because only in a fictional reality would someone cheat on and then dump Danielle Harris. And even then it doesn't make sense. Okay, so only being 2 episodes in, I'm kind of annoyed that both of them were about relationship type shit, but there are still 7 left, so I was still holding on to hope at that point. Susan is approached by the mysterious Mr. Smith, played by William Forsythe, who is completely hamming it up here, and it's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. It's just cool to see him. I think he's a cool guy. So he offers to kill Carlos before he gets in his Carlos gets in his silver Honda with a huge dent in the fender. We're still supposed to believe this guy cheated on Danielle Harris and then dumped her. So who is this Mr. Smith? Is he a demon? The devil himself? It doesn't really matter because I found this to be a complete snooze fest. It's got some funny / kind of fun twists at the end, but the rest of it is just not worth watching hardly. Also, 2 episodes in and absolutely zero gore. I mean, nothing scary. They're starting to feel like Goosebumps episodes, really, but hey, you get to spend 10 minutes with Danielle Harris, so I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 10. Episode 3, Boom. This episode has 2 former military buddies that are both bomb diffusers, or were bomb diffusers. One is convinced that the other has been sleeping with his wife. So he gets them both to join them in his basement, or garage or whatever, with an armed explosive while he confronts them both. But did they really have an affair, or is it just PTSD? And I'll add to that, does it matter? Because this is so boring. 3 duds in a row now. Is this even horror? I don't think it is. I'd say barely at best. This was absolutely terrible. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Almost unwatchable. Episode 4, Mongos Magic Mirror. So this episode has Ray Wise of Twin Peaks fame playing the mysterious street magician Mongo the Magnificent to be exact. So one day he's stopped by an illusionist and his assistant wanting to purchase Mongo's magic mirror, which transports people to an alternate reality. And man, oh man, this might be the worst episode so far, and that's kind of saying a lot. I mean, there's a lot of green screen work here, and it is absolutely terrible. Why you would even bother making something like this, I don't know. The concept is decent, I guess, but visually it just sucks. It's more than obvious that Ray Wise is a far better actor than the other 2 bozos here. Otherwise, this is acted very poorly and written even more poorly. I'm giving this one a 2.5 out of 10. At least it had some blood in it at the end. First time so far in almost 49 minutes, might I add. Episode 5, Bite. Oh man, remember the salvia craze of the mid-2000s? It was like some kind of thing you could buy at head shops and you'd smoke it. It was completely legal at the time, and it reportedly would make you like super high for like a minute or 2, and not very long. I never touched it, but for some reason it's the basis of this episode, which is just kind of cringy. So in this episode, there is a special strain of salvia that shows you the future when you smoke it. You do get to see the Chucky logo in here, which is pretty cool. And despite the stupid salvia angle, you at least get some monsters and a little bit of gore here. But you also get the worst werewolf transformation you've ever seen. At least the costumes look kind of okay. The CGI blood really sucks, though. That brings it down, but oh well. 3.5 out of 10 for this one. Episode 6, Shockwave. So this episode has Angela Bettis in it, and she was actually the main reason I bought this DVD. I was happy to see her like I always am, but I instantly felt bad for her because she's an actress that rarely gets her due, in my opinion. I mean, I love her, but she's had to take so many bad roles in her career. And as I expected, she outshines everyone else in this segment. So in this one, a group of friends are having dinner together when EMP waves begin to wipe out all the power grids in cities throughout the US. So yeah, other than Angela Bettis, this episode absolutely blows. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10, and that's probably pretty generous. Episode 7, Cached. 2 friends take an iPad from a strange man that they watched randomly kill himself in an alleyway. And the iPad seems to show glimpses of people that had all died at some point, as if they are in like some other dimension. So we have another, crystal ball type episode, and it's just as cringy. Sure, there's a little bit of blood here, but the makeup effects are really bad. Episode 8, Pizza Guy. Okay, so this one at least starts off catching my attention. It's got pizza and Satan. That right there puts it kind of at the top for me so far. It's got kind of like a Satanic Panic era vibe, albeit in a modern setting, but I kind of don't mind this one. And it's about a girl who wants to talk to her sister again that had passed away, I think, somewhat recently. She acquires this like mysterious occult book that has instructions on how to perform satanic rituals. Cool subject matter aside, it's way too meandering. I know I said it's not that bad, but it's this one's drawn out for too long. And like all the episodes before it, I don't want to say it's unwatchable, but it should have been about half the length that it is. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Chapter 9, Vampires Dance. This is the last one here. And this one's about, well, vampires, obviously, but I'm throwing in the towel because I can't even finish the last 12 minutes here. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. This is possibly the worst anthology I've ever seen. And I mean, sadly, it shows, in my opinion, just how out of touch Tom Holland had become. And I don't even know, who funded this or why. Whose idea was this? I mean, it just seems like a huge waste of time, and its existence just baffles me. 9 episodes clocking it at almost 2.5 hours, and most of the material here makes the worst, Full Moon or Trauma films look like fucking Citizen Kane. Overall, I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 10. Avoided at all costs. One of the worst things I've ever seen, and 3.5 is by far the worst score I've given anything since I have been doing film reviews. Just absolutely terrible, and I want my 2.5 hours back. Plus the time that I spent making this video. I was already in too deep, I had to do it. Anyways, don't watch it. Cheers, guys.